Hello there and welcome to Thank the Maker, a podcast about heroes, princesses, scoundrels, hooky religions, ancient weapons, and all things Star Wars. I'm Adam Russell.
And I am Mike Forster. Adam, we are now 1 week away from Maul Shadow Lord coming to an end, and it feels like it's equally taken a long time, but also it came out only a couple weeks ago. The 2-episode thing is really goofing me up, but then it's straight into Mando Grogu from here. And I do have to say, I will say this, at the top of the hour, the marketing machine has absolutely ramped up, and I feel like I need to eat, well, at this point, a Burger King green bun Grogu burger.
I didn't know that was a thing.
I don't think it's in the U.S. Maybe
Okay.
some of our patrons can tell me, but I think it's mostly overseas. The black sesame bun seems to be Din's bun. And there's a green one for Grogu, which is a chicken sandwich, I guess. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. Regardless, though, I do have to say, for all of the Lucasfilm people that are waiting for the apology to say, we told you, I will fully eat Crow.
The Crow
From Maul Shadow Lord, as a way to say, yeah, you guys were right. And I hope it's working, because I feel like I've seen Mando Grogu everywhere, which is great. And knowing that we're wrapping up one amazing series and hopefully going into an amazingly fun movie, great time to be a Star Wars fan.
It is a great time to be a Star Wars fan. We're ending on May 4th. There's a lot of stuff going on, of course, on that weekend. That whole week, we got Space Dive. You'll be there. Jason will be there. A lot of friends in the Detroit and upper Midwest area will be there. I unfortunately can't make it. But you and I will be together in Green Bay and then Marquette to see Mando and Grogu 2 nights in a row, 2 afternoons in a row.
How fun is that? It's
going to be great. It's going to be really, really great.
What has been really cool about seeing kind of the whole thing roll out, I think at this point, it's Disney Star Wars nights in the parks right now, which they are unveiling a crazy amount of stuff. We have a Bouche helmet from the Galactic Archive series, which is the 3PO is one of my favorite things I think they've ever made. And they have a Lando skiff guard helmet, which is awesome. And then someone today, kind of unannounced, they're doing full Mandalorian armor and gauntlets.
What?
For sale, which is crazy to me considering how seemingly slow they were to kind of doing the hard armor kind of stuff. It was always like collectibles, but this is like a fully wearable piece, which is crazy considering the journey of going, there's people who are still trying to find the original Resistance X-Wing kits, the Snowspeeder jackets, which I was lucky enough to get one in my size. They're fantastic. They're actually great pieces for the price. So I don't know. This is a crazy time to be a Star Wars fan in many, many different ways of finding it.
Absolutely. Are those all park exclusives? Is that Shop Disney? What is the sizing? Are these kids or adult sizes? Are they like, what level are all these new costume pieces on?
It looks like it's fully adult size. The paint job, of course, like this is always the thing with the from the prop house, it was painted with a very special type of chrome called a Lumiluster, which is actually more of like a dark chrome. It's a professional automotive style paint job. So in the park, they're a little bit too shiny. That's always a common criticism with either they're just too dull, it's almost like a stainless steel, or they're like mirror reflective, right?
Right.
Which neither is accurate in terms of what people would want from that costume. But regardless, it's really cool to see the parks taking some big swings like that. And I posted on my story today, kind of a funny, I don't know, I guess a throwback to they're making ID cards in the park now. Did you see this?
I did not.
So you can sit in this kind of like essentially a photo booth, and you can pick your faction, Imperial, Alien, Mandalorian, Jedi, whatever. And they take 3 different pictures of your face, and then they mock it up onto whatever that character that you pick, and then it prints out on a transparent acrylic piece. And the amount of messages that I got that were, dude, after 6 years, they finally ripped off your idea. And I'm like, well, I mean, come on, it's not really my idea, but
right.
But it is funny looking back and going like how all of this started was because I was making custom ID cards for people.
That's why we're sitting right here.
It is
together.
crazy. It is crazy in that regard. So it's really cool to see them like fully embracing, in my opinion, that people do want this,
Yeah.
and at the same time with Space Dive happening, like, did you see, shout out to Hunter Smoke, Jag Hunter, is one of our patrons, also our good friends, is making, did you see his Grogu that he's making?
I saw his drawn and quartered baby Grogu in pieces on his workshop desk. That was great.
It's so cool to see him building that. So again, it's like we're getting to this point where like the immersiveness of people wanting to bring Star Wars to life feels super encouraging right now, because I feel like for a while we were kind of hitting this lull, and I know for a lot of people it was like, when it doesn't come in, Star Wars doesn't come out in the theaters, where do we go out and troop, or what are we going to do in the parks? We like dressing up. There hasn't been a celebration for another year. It's really cool to see people just fully geeking out over Star Wars again.
Yeah, it is great to see them coming with new in-universe collectibles, cosplay, props, stuff like that. Because last time I was at Galaxy's Edge, even Doc Ondars was feeling a little gift shoppy.
Shopping style, yeah.
Yeah, a few too many Star Wars logos and things.
Right.
Or just, not the deep in-universe kind of stuff that it started with and that we all love. So it's cool to see. I mean, these parks are within other parks. They can sell the branded stuff a lot of places. So the more in-universe stuff that they offer and the more that we go out there and just buy it all up, I think hopefully the more they'll embrace that and lean into it. Because now with the shift on the West Coast to the classic characters, the OT and everything, it can start, we've talked about this, it can start to feel like Star Wars land instead of, being on-world in-universe, which is what we all loved about it from the beginning. So
right. And Clay is there right now, the Blue Guy 808 from our patronage, and he's also a 501st Legion command staff with me. And you'd be happy to know, Adam, that the Orabesh collection, full Star Wars logos everywhere, but they're all done in Orabesh, which is great.
Nice.
So he's like, don't worry, it's not Star Wars logos and the corny Coles versions of just Stormtrooper and Imperial Galactic Empire. You're like, oh geez, okay,
right.
It seems like they're really having a lot of fun making this stuff. And then of course today too, we got Celebration merch, the first kind of bundle packages going out today. So this is pretty exciting. It feels good. It feels good to have Star Wars be back in so many different ways. However you consume it, either you're a kid getting on board with a blockbuster event, which is really cool. It is crazy to me that there have been kids that have been born and learned about Star Wars and became enough of a fan to go see a Star Wars movie in a theater for the first time since Rise of Skywalker came out.
Yes, which is the fifth movie in the Disney era. So that's how deep we are. It's been that long. It's kind of wild. So we're stoked. We're stoked on that. We're stoked on this show. And I'm celebrating it in this moment by wearing a shirt that matches our background, designed by you.
Ooh,
from Roosevelt's.
Yeah, I'm loving. First of all, the May the 4th collection. I think we're going to try to bring Justin on to talk about it. It is crazy though, the difference of rocking a Star Wars shirt within the last month compared to what it's been. December, January of last year, it was just kind of like, oh, is that a Star Wars shirt? And now I've got people coming up and asking, oh, dude, you must be watching the show, which is an amazing experience, an amazing thing. Because I always use these shirts as an opportunity to be like, I want to find some fans. Let's
Absolutely.
talk. So it's super cool. The May the 4th collection crushed it. John, Justin, all those guys, just great work. Instant bangers, as we say. And I'm stoked to rock them in the theater.
Nice.
With a bunch of other geeks.
All right, let's talk about Maul Shadow Lord, chapters 7 and 8. We're approaching the end. We've got one more next week. Let's go ahead and jump right into Stolen Plans.
What have you done with those plans?
Maul Shadow Lord, episodes 7 and 8, debuted Monday, April 27th on Disney+. Chapter 7, the title alone, Call to Oblivion. Debuted on Monday, April 27th on Disney+. The Disney Plus description for this one: as enemies close in, Maul is forced to make a stand. Directed by Nate Villanueva, written by Julia Cooperman, and the runtime is 26 minutes. Let's go right into Chapter 8, The Creeping Fear. The description for this one: a hasty escape plan proves dangerous while an isolated Maul regroups. Directed by Saul Ruiz, written by Jennifer Corbet, runtime again at 29 minutes. And we got a new cast member introduced, Kebris, which is the kind of gruff Mando Merc who ultimately defects. Spoiler alert. Played by Ben Diskin. Various voice roles in shows like Hey Arnold, Avatar: The Last Airbender, and played both Gonzo and Rizzo in the modern revival of Muppet Babies. Also won the Outstanding Young Ensemble Cast in a Motion Picture Young Artist Award for his role of Sylvester in Kindergarten Cop. Full circle moment here for Ben Diskin.
Dude, I just listened to an episode of The Rewatchables from the Ringer Podcast Network about Kindergarten Cop the other day. There's some things that have aged very poorly in that movie, as one would expect.
Of course.
Specifically, the character of Sylvester's sort of dilemma as a child. He's playing with dolls, and there's some really bad stuff, which is, I don't know, it's laughable now because of how stupid people were then. But the rumor... The speculation is that amidst the Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone rivalry at the time for, top action hero, that Stallone may have been sort of the reference with the name Sylvester in this little girly man. Yeah, a distract. Exactly.
Just petty enough.
Yeah. God, that's amazing. The timing.
That's pretty good. And Kebris, ultimately, we've heard him a couple of times. It's cool to see him finally get the acknowledgement of, and ultimately, his untimely death. Let's get into it. Chapter 7. Maul leads Devin and Riley to his hideout where the pair attempt to escape. The Imperials are fully here. I actually can appreciate how the threat of Imperials is not this kind of like, oh, we turned a corner and there happened to be a couple there. They are fully hunting them. Yeah. Which I think helps with the pacing of this. What was your original thought after you finished Chapter 7, Adam? Because I'm curious. I have a thought that sat with me after I finished this one.
The balance of the stakes and the suspense and the peril is in a place that I don't feel like we've ever seen in Star Wars. Or it's never been portrayed this heavily. You've got this villain turned sort of anti-hero in Maul who we're all rooting for so hard. The Empire's coming, and it's not what we're used to at all, because he's a dark side user who's being hunted for different reasons than the rebels and the resistance that we've grown up rooting for. So I had this strange mix of feelings. It felt a lot like the Obi-Wan Kenobi series meets, parts of the Rebels series, and seeing the vulnerability of Maul and the low place that he's gotten to now, all the ups and downs of his character that we've known over time is just like so fresh and expertly executed. I can't say enough good stuff about it.
There's a part when I was watching it where I was like, man, it feels like how much, where can we go in here? Because like, it seems like the Empire is consistently closing in, and that tension gets very hard to maintain, because you kind of almost like the more tension is there, the more you start to get used to it and the more they become less of a threat. So with the introduction of the Crow was unbelievably badass. I mean, at this point, that's one of the coolest looking Inquisitors in my opinion. Just the whole, Marak goes out to the Scythe, I believe is the name of the ship. That top down shot with the silhouette of this mean looking ship, that we saw first in the Kenobi series. But I mean, the whole thing is like, I equally had a feeling of like, where do we go from here? And also, I can't believe this show is done next week.
Yeah.
That the pacing feels crazy to me in a good way. So the same thing of like how you're feeling, where it's like, man, we're diving into the human themes of Maul, and almost like I remember thinking, okay, cool. They announced season 2. We're 4 episodes in. We're fully on the run from the Empire already. I'm like, what are we going to get into in season 2? This is crazy. And now I'm like, oh my God, we have so much to explore.
I have a lot of thoughts about this. This will be for a season recap and speculation, which we, of course, don't do on the podcast. I have pretty strong feelings about the way seasons 1, 2, and 3 will be kind of partitioned timeline-wise and what they can explore. And there was a moment at the very end of chapter 8 that kind of solidified that speculation for me, that prediction.
So you're jumping over the barricade. You're saying we're already getting season 3.
Oh, yeah. Like, there's no way this is 2. There's no way.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, because I remember hearing, that people were like, oh, the Bad Batch was like, okay, how many seasons of that? Clone Wars, whatever. But like up until this point, especially in the way that they're dropping the episodes, which I don't know if they'll do again. Again, the hard part is looking at it objectively and going, if we got one of these episodes a week, would I have felt like chapter 7 was fulfilling enough? Was it too much of a cliffhanger? Was it kind of one of those frustrating parts where it's like, the serialized part of TV, when I remember growing up being like, that's it? Or like, now I gotta wait a whole week to see this, blah, blah, blah. So there's a lot of thoughts on that. I'm with you on thinking that, season 3, season 4, season 5 could be inevitable at this point. And given the reception too, I have to feel like this is a great thing for Disney Animation.
Absolutely. I think I really should save this for a full season recap, but I feel 3 things here. 1, the Bad Batch got 3 seasons, to your point. Maul is this beloved character. There's no way they would give this fewer seasons than the Bad Batch with the amount of story that there is to tell. There's this huge span of time. We know he does live all the way up until 1 BBY, I guess it is. There's story there to be told. 2, there were things left on the table by Solo, for example, that need to be covered. Judging by what Kathleen Kennedy said about regretting things about Solo recasting Han Solo even at a younger age, and the challenge and all that kind of stuff, it makes me think that if they're going to tackle stuff like that, they're going to do it in animation. And then just for the generation, the era of fans that are consuming this now, that there is no other character that has earned a multi-season show like Maul.
I think if we looked at it, it would be interesting. This could be a great episode. We look at what other characters in Star Wars could be fleshed out. Yeah. I actually would say that Han Solo might be one of those characters. There's so much. I know that there's tons and tons of books about it, and there's tons of comics and all of that. But in terms of the digestible stuff that most people are seeing, animated shows have, I think, really opened a door for a lot of opportunity. So either it's Lando and Han, the Lando series that we were maybe supposed to get in live action could be turned into an animated series, and that's kind of like Smugglers, and different than how we've seen it here. So I'm with that. But let's get a little bit further into chapter 7, because we're bouncing around, but it's all part of the same discussion. So in this one particularly, Devin manages to escape and reunites with Docky and Lawson, and Riley is brought back to the police headquarters and detained. Lawson tries contacting Two Boots, but the droid is forced to hide his comlink. So the droid thing is always funny to me, because the programming of these sentient robots is hilarious to me, because either they need to be hard reprogrammed, or they're almost like a glimpse into the future of AI. Of going, you know what I mean? Where it's like they're programmed to know their protocol, but like once they become aware enough to go, my programming is just wrong, or say I'm growing a conscience, programming is only just data once you've given enough data to me to be able to form my own opinion.
Yeah, they've gone rogue. They're self-aware.
And Two Boots is a great example of that. So Maul's group is making their way to the escape ship. They're intercepted by stormtroopers again, this time joined by Marok and the 11th brother, who engage with Maul. And during the fight, 3 of his the mercs, the Mandalorian mercenaries led by Kebris, attempt to abandon the Shadow Collective, only to get shot down. The Inquisitors show up, and you're like, oh, damn, this is awesome. Lightsabers. But then like 5, 6, 7 lats show up, and I'm like, they brought the cavalry.
Yeah, dude, it's so impressive that they can put an action sequence in every other episode that is absolute, top tier action movie level stuff, and it doesn't get old, because it's so well done and they're so creative with how they do it, the different types of chases that they do, the different types of fights. It's a lot like you were saying, how do you keep the stakes high when you're always running from the Empire? How does it not get boring? Like moments on Lost or shows like that, where it's like, okay, I guess we're not concerned with starving to death anymore. We're on to other stuff. Like, what? You know, it's easy to get lost in that, but they are, pardon the pun, but
Nice.
they just keep coming with the hits. And it's like every chase has a different kind of bit of stakes to it, a different dynamic to it. Every showdown, every monologue, and every kind of persuasive conversation has a different angle, has different stakes, has different emotional content, new highs, new lows. Damn, that's good.
I think a part that I noticed too is I'm kind of looking at like the approach of the Inquisitors in this series, particularly. Two Inquisitors with double-sided lightsabers, arguably very powerful, what would you call it, Force users in this own sense. We haven't seen the same level of like Force strength from the Crow yet. The Crow seems to be the one that is interrogating people, but Marok has the pass sight, whatever. I can't remember the official name of it, where he can feel
Force echoes.
Force echoes, right? You know, he's a Force user. We know that, but like, have you kind of gathered what that his ability is?
No, I mean, if each one of them kind of has like their niche, their superpower, so to speak, I don't know what his is, but the way he dies in Tales of the Jedi leads me to believe that there's a lot to be told about him.
100%. The thing that I'm looking at is there's a lot of stormtroopers backing up the Inquisitors, which is different than when we see them in Kenobi.
Right.
All of them show up kind of, they're like riding dirty. You know what I mean? Like 6 of them get out of the scythe and they go to this largely unarmed village on Tatooine looking for Jedi, but like there's barely any stormtroopers with them.
You know what I think that is, though?
Budget?
Well, budget when they shot it, etc. But Kenobi takes place another 8 years after this ish.
Yep. I know where you're going with this, and I like it.
So there are fewer Jedi left. The Empire's stronger. They're quickly approaching, you know, just within a few years of dissolving the Senate. Like, they cleared the streets, so to speak. And I think that's one part of it. And the other part is Maul is, you know, it's one thing when you're hunting Jedi who, you know, cue the clip of the Grand Inquisitor, you know, sir, this is a Wendy's, when he's talking in the cantina about, you know how to hunt Jedi, sir. There's that, because the Jedi, they're in hiding. They feel like they've lost their ways, you know, as illustrated by Daki in the first episode. They're pacifists. They don't steal. They're just like, they're too good to really unleash and make the shit hit the fan when it comes down to it. Maul, on the other hand, it's to me, going after Maul is kind of like the moment in Terminator 2 when all the cops show up at the Cyberdyne building and John Connor looks out the window and he's like, "Cops are here." And she goes, "How many?" And he goes, all of them, I think.
All of them. Yeah.
Because, you know, it's the guy from the video, from the police station from, you know, a few years ago. Send everybody kind of thing.
Right. The other part that I was thinking when I was going with this concept, we had this great discussion with Ryan Key about who is the, you know, I think we all knew that we weren't going to get the reveal of who he was talking to on the holo, right? But there was a part of me that goes, at this point, is it possible that the Inquisitors were actually Palpatine's initiative? And Vader is the one who goes, "This is your new coach."
Yeah. And if you think about the way a Sith Lord plays the people around him and his apprentice as pawns against each other, that's a classic move. It's almost like trying to make your ex see you with out on a new date to make them jealous, you know, kind of thing, in the dark side Force user kind of way. So it's like, I got all these people that could do your job. You could lead them. If you don't want to lose your job, go ahead, do a good job. And I think that's the dynamic.
Collecting the Force users was an initiative that was long in progress before Vader. So that part of me thinks that maybe this is Palpatine's way of going, they need to be trained. They need to be trained by someone stronger that I can't fully like unleash on. And then we're going to get a little bit more into this. And I know that there's a lot of literature about that. I'm sure some of our patrons have read this book, Shadows of the Sith. There's a lot of literature about the scenes that we see in the next chapter, but it does make you curious for those of us who haven't read all of the books about the Inquisitors and the comic books, and I know that stuff's out there. But it does make me think, was Maul, Maul was groomed to be an apprentice, but like the Inquisitors were the Inquisitors a way to make the apprentices disposable?
Making them think. There's a great story about the Spice Girls. Not what anyone expected to see coming here, but
The
like
Spice Runner Girls.
I love the Spice Girls. My wife is a huge fan and really hooked me to them over time. We watched this amazing documentary about how they started. They were formed as kind of a girl group by this management company, but the manager refused to sign any contracts with them to keep them fighting and vying for position in the group, and made them think that they were all replaceable, kicked one of them out just to prove a point. And at some point, they were like, screw this guy. We don't have a contract. We'll take our demos and bounce. And they did. They went in the studio, got him, left town, got a new manager, became the Spice Girls. And it's that thing of if you feel like you're always on the chopping block and the next person's always there ready to step up into your spot, that's going to make you work harder. One, I guess. That's the worst kind of negative reinforcement. But in this universe, that's what makes a great Sith.
You really do get to see in this one that Maul is on his heels, which I really liked, because like the whole first arc of this story was Maul's almost like fighting with one hand, not really breaking a sweat when he's fighting Marok for the first time. And, sure, they cut the cable and the train falls off, and he kind of looks down at Devin and he's like, was that hard for you? He had this hubris to him that almost makes it seem like this is a guy who has a plan. This one, he fully acknowledged that he was out of his element. And that either goes to show that Maul has his limits, or he hasn't been able to tap into what he thinks is his power, or the Inquisitors are just that good. And I actually like this idea because Maul becomes one of those characters that has plot armor, but we still knowing, unfortunately, where he meets his actual end. I didn't know what was going to happen when he was fighting both the Inquisitors. And that's a really refreshing feeling to have, knowing a character whose fate has long been told.
Yeah.
It was cool to see him authentically be like, what's going to happen to this guy?
Yeah, because we know he's not going to die, but we do know that he has to be knocked down again and again and again to get to the place where he's just an old man in a cave with this vision board of revenge and all the people. He's just he's lost his mind yet again. And then Ezra comes along, and then we see him yet again at the bottom, wandering through the desert screaming Kenobi. So
right.
Knowing how he gets to those low points over and over and over again is what keeps this interesting.
So the part about the kind of one of the final key notes of Chapter 7 is that his brother, the other Night Brother, Scorn, is killed saving Maul. And the part that I think is interesting is that Scorn has a yellowish tone to him. Icarus looks like Maul. Icarus is the one I think that was kind of the decoy at the beginning with the pikes.
Right.
But you really saw his yellow coloring, which of course goes back to going, man, this feels like Savage and Maul. You're seeing a younger version of them. It's a narrative element. And Maul at this point is starting to see the walls close in, which I think is really great. And you get this sense that he's sitting there and he, puts his hands up in this, very I surrender, and the Inquisitors are like, no.
I give up.
You don't get that. You do not get that. And so I love that it ends up being Maul actually buying time to gather the force and pull the cave down on them. I think that's a great way to do that. And also Chapter 8, as we'll get into.
Before we start this, it was so interesting to me that they ran it back at the top of Chapter 8 and replayed that scene. Wasn't that strange?
It was almost like, it felt like it should have been part of the recap, but it wasn't.
Yeah, they just fully went back to the future too on it.
Yeah.
It was wild.
Yeah. What do we call that? A lightsaber corksicle? Power dive? What do we see that as?
Yeah, I think either of those names work.
Sure. A lightsaber corkscrew.
It was an inverted Palpatine.
Because he was
inverted.
Yeah. Maul narrowly escapes the collapse, struggles with his damaged cybernetic legs, and experiences hallucinations of his past. Now, before we get into this, because this is an entire discussion on this, I thought it was interesting that when Riley gets interrogated, was it the Crow or was it Marak? I thought it was the Crow.
It was the Crow.
Okay. Yeah. What I think was interesting about it is, so one of the police, I can't remember the officer's name, kind of informs Two Boots that the Empire's not here to work with us. They're here to take this over. And so when Two Boots is updating his programming and he's like, I need to talk to the captain about this. And that deputy or that officer is like, I hate to break it to you, pal. Mm-hmm. The captain's dead, right? And you can see Two Boots being like, oh, considering that he was the one who initiated all this.
Some Andor stuff.
100%. It's the self-awareness of and I love when droids get self-aware in Star Wars. It's fantastic. Riley is seemingly largely unaffected by the interrogation, which either makes me think that, the Crow is asking for information and possibly saying, because I almost imagine the Inquisitors are kind of like Borgullet. Like they torture you so bad that like you've lost your mind a little bit. Riley was largely unaffected by seemingly what he was asked about, right? And it seems like it was a fairly straightforward interrogation. He's like, they asked me and I just didn't know anything. So they kind of just put me in a cell.
That's what I gathered from it. Like he probably went straight into his mind. He's like, this kid doesn't know shit.
And is this one of those things where they go, the Inquisitors are like, oh, your mom works for us? Might get a little hairy.
Yeah, I think it's a combination. It could be a combination of all of it. Like he doesn't know anything. The mom Imperial connection, which may not matter at all because, if they're going to throw Dedra in Narkina, they're going to throw his mom somewhere as well. So I don't think that matters as much, but it's probably the kind of thing where they're thinking, okay, he doesn't know anything. Let's let him go, reconnect, and then come back with something because he's gonna go talk about this experience. He's going to go get deeper in the shit. This is some dumb kid that we can just go scoop up again if we want to. Yeah,
100%. So it could be worked as bait. Like I like all this, but I just thought that was interesting. I thought I would have seen Riley like a little more haggard, but regardless, it's a cool opportunity to make Riley a bigger character. I think in all this, he's not fully in, he's not fully out.
That kid's going to be in the rebellion for real, fully.
Okay, so we're going into. Are we doing chapter 8? We want to talk about this?
Let's talk about it, but let's not get deep into. Let's not talk about the vision at all. We'll do that in the den because there's some relevant stuff there.
That's fair. I like it. So we're talking about Riley being interrogated by the 11th brother. Lawson makes contact with Two Boots finally, and the intent is to trade himself for his son. So he's playing Two Boots, knowing that like Two Boots is, it's very analog, right? It's like it's in or it's out for Two Boots at least. But Two Boots, of course, being updated and realizing what's happening, helps free Riley. They reunite with Lawson and the Jedi before escaping Imperial forces. I love that. I love that whole scene of him being like, "Oh, we're in trouble now," was fantastic. So they go, they meet with Rena. The Jedi sense they're walking into a trap. I love that scene of where Daki and Devin both are like, it's almost like your Spidey sense, right? Like she almost reaches down for her lightsaber. She's like, something's wrong. And the fact that Lawson's able to call Rena and she tips him off with the what do we call a kill switch, basically, like your safety word, knowing that you've been compromised.
Right. Yeah.
Whatever that is, when she's like, oh yeah, we, everything's fine. Just like that old time on this. He's like, you've
lost the parents are dead.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Exactly. What if Ralph? No, what's the dog's name?
Hey, Janelle, what's wrong with Wolfie?
Wolfie. Yeah.
Wolfie's fine.
Yeah. Wolfie's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Dude, what I love also leading up to that moment is Devin says to Riley, fear is natural. We just can't allow it to control us.
Yeah.
And then I think the very next shot is her hand on the saber, like you said.
Yeah.
And she kind of gripped it. And I was wondering, I'm looking for clues. I'm waiting with bated breath for clues to her fall to the dark side.
Yeah.
And that felt like it to me.
Yeah.
So it's like she's telling this to herself out loud as well. And then she grabs her saber.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately nothing comes of it in that moment. But was that a breadcrumb?
It has to be. It has to be. I think if she is the dark-sided version of Ahsoka Tano, where Ahsoka is almost like represents hope. We can't let fear be a decision for us. Devin's almost like, oh yeah, no, it's cool when it's there. It's fine. You just can't let it control you. So her acknowledgement of it is almost a different color than Ahsoka's interaction with it.
Yes.
And so I think it was interesting to have her, again, to your point, like a great character moment of just going, if you look back at all the times where Maul's teaching has like kind of said, like, remember, power is a balance of both. It's not just believing in one thing with no acknowledgement of the other side. Something to consider. The part that I've never seen before in Star Wars animation, could be in Clone Wars, I didn't see it, when Rena grabs the blaster and hip fires it from the stormtrooper, and it almost goes to a GoPro POV.
Oh yes, dude.
Of the barrel of the blaster, and she goes around the circle and just like whomps them all.
Yes.
I was like, what was that? That was pretty awesome.
That was a John Wick shot, dude. They're having fun. The animators are having some fun.
Yes, it felt.
And the directors.
It felt. Did you remember the old arcade game where you got to be Vader? And you got to, there was like a blaster game where it was the original trilogy. You basically used like your classic like Top Gun style joystick. It was a cabinet game, original trilogy, and it went through all the, it was a trench run, then you went to Hoth, and then, you actually, you battled Vader.
It had a joystick, but it had some other thing. It was like a multi-control kind of cabinet.
Yeah, it was kind of goofy. I think the idea was that it was like, oh, you could fly a ship and also have a lightsaber. So you were doing this whole thing, you were fighting Vader. But the POV of it is very like, just the way that they shot it and the style, I was like, that's exactly what it reminded me of.
On a swivel.
It's super fun. And I just thought it was different than what we've normally seen.
Absolutely.
Just from that perspective. So I thought that was pretty cool. Ultimately, they're taking the elevator back up. They escape the trap set for them. Rena just destroys the place. She
comes through
100%. I was like, damn, so I guess the curiosity then becomes, you didn't see Blake. You see him get blasted forward, but you didn't see him get consumed by the flame, which makes me think like he'll be back for vengeance.
Yeah, with the back of his uniform burned off like a Looney Tunes scene. Yeah.
Something along those lines. So I thought that was pretty awesome. The notes in here say killing Blake. I don't know if that's true. I'd be interested. This could be another question, because if Blake comes back with your classic bad guy, he's all screwed up. Rebels haven't taken everything from me, whatever, I could see that very much be a classic bad guy moment. This is the James Bond, whatever. I'm deformed now. I'm angry. It's my mission now to make sure that they, they're destroyed, whatever. I like this scene. I thought this was really awesome. But Maul ends up reuniting with the Shadow Collective. They take temporary refuge in Nicodemus's office. Vario then receives a message from none other, #make Solo 2 happen, Dryden Voss of Crimson Dawn, requesting an audience with Maul.
Man, I watched Solo yesterday because of the way this episode ended. It is such a fun movie. It's really good. It's not Return of the Jedi or The Empire Strikes Back or Andor, but it is a damn good movie. It's fun. And hearing Sam Witwer's voice over Ray Park's performance at the end, Dryden Voss here, it was such a cool experience in the context of this now. So again, this is what leads me to think about and solidify my thoughts about what's coming in the next 2 or 3 or who knows how many seasons of this show.
I think all in all, the depth of going further into the underground, because again, like, the fact that we basically saw in Clone Wars, Maul has a history now of wiping out entire syndicates. It's pretty awesome. But in terms of going, man, the Pikes get it one time, the Deveronians get it one time. You're just like, man, this guy, like, if you're an underground cave dweller who's running an operation and Maul shows up, it's probably going to be a bad time for you.
You're going to be a notch on a belt, dog.
100%. So I think it's really cool that, you're getting a character like Dryden Voss. it will be interesting to see who plays him, who does his voice acting. I think that would be amazing if they got Paul Bettany to come back. But all in all, I mean, this is super exciting. And this is actually part of that conversation we're talking about. Where do we go from here? Where's season 2? Where's season 3? This just opened this thing wide open for me. I don't know if you feel the same.
Absolutely. Yeah. I really went down the rabbit hole, the thought experiment rabbit hole at the end of this. One more thing about Devon's breadcrumbs when it comes to her potential to turn to the dark side. She beat the shit out of 3 random Cyclops dudes and stole their speeder. We went from the premiere of this series being a conversation about not even stealing fruit, starving before stealing, to her beating 3 random dudes' asses and taking their speeder.
She needed it.
She gonna turn.
She gave me a fun little question for our patrons. The Cyclops species. Where did we see the Cyclops species? They have helmets on, which is different than last time we saw them. But I would love for people to chime in and say, where do we think we saw the Cyclops species? It's a fun little trivia question. And John Leguizamo would like to have a word.
Yeah.
Regardless. I like that there was the, we have this chat with the Roosevelt's guys about, these weird AI videos that people are making of Anakin and all the Jedi like dancing to club music. I like that it was like Fast and Furious style, where they were getting this like Fast and Furious techno Euro beat going on, and like, as she drives by, it's like you hear it, and she's just blowing through stuff. I'm like, oh, this is pretty awesome.
It was great, man. Like that. I also started rewatching Ahsoka yesterday, and the Igyaka moment with Sabine on the speeder.
Yeah.
Being one of like the most prominent recent examples of diegetic music in Star Wars, following this earlier in the day, really like, I don't know, maybe I've also been listening to David W. Collins' recent episodes of the soundtrack show talking about the Phantom Menace. So I'm really thinking about Star Wars music right now. And it everything feels so holistic and together and connected now. There are moments where if you're not as deep into it as we are, and you come in and out and you don't study the history of the storytelling, the music, everything else, things can feel a little foreign. But contextually, it feels so rich now to me.
Yeah.
Like, of course, they're going to be in a chase in the middle of a city somewhere, and they're going to go by somebody doing some like Eurovision techno stuff. Of course, there's going to be some like grunge thing that somebody like Sabine listens to on a speeder bike. It's so well done. And for all of the woes of having to sort of like trust a giant mega corporation with the thing you love most in the world, we got some damn good stuff. And I think we're still at peak Star Wars.
The people working on this show love this show so much. They love Star Wars so much. It's awesome. Of course, as a biker scout in the 501st Legion, anytime I hear that from the speeder bikes, I'm like, dude, oh my God, the echo, the screech, the scream when they go around the corner, which has, been the sound that we've heard since the Forest Moon of Endor, right? We're also seeing the white version of the, probably the precursor a couple years out to where we've seen this speeder. I'm sure Jason's got it in the den, but
yeah. Well, hey, should we get into it now? Let's get into the den.
Sure, why not? Let's give the people what they want. Adam, what's going on?
For over 1,000 generations.
It is the dark saber.
Togosh.
It's a Kalikori.
A Sith wayfinder.
Dark science. Cloning. Secrets only the Sith knew.
Okay, so we have the new Imperial speeder bike, right? So there's a couple versions of speeder bikes that we've seen before, which is, we have the Bark speeder, of course, which the clones were using. This was the one that we see, tragically get blown up during Order 66, and also the one that Kelleran Beck takes to help Grogu escape from the Jedi Temple. This variant looks like a mashup of a couple different designs that we've seen. It looks like a classic mix of the 74Z, which is the brown one that we've seen in Return of the Jedi. And then we also have the CPH patrol speeder, which is the one that the patrol troopers used in Solo.
In the opening chase.
Yes. So it's a big chunky thing. And you can see how over time it gets slimmer and slimmer and slimmer. Now, of course, we've seen this one on Corellia. So this one looks like it might have a little bit, the CPH. It looks like it has a little bit more like mixed utility use. Like it could also be used to move cargo or something like that.
Yeah.
And the 74Z seems like it's a reconnaissance thing. It's almost like a, off-road bicycle. That's kind of like, we're just looking to get from this side of the shield generator to the other side, not messing around. But the new one that we've seen here that you had the picture of, this is pretty cool because it looks like a mix truly of both. It's got the smaller nose cone on the front. It's got the same kind of style and design of the CPH.
It's got that angular kind of look to it. What's interesting is the CPH is later because Solo is 10 BBY. We're at 18 right now.
This makes me think different utility, to be honest.
Yeah, it could be, you think about the way cars are designed where you kind of preserve design language from, a sedan all the way up to a minivan or a truck or something. Then, maybe, by the days of 2 ABY, they've moved to this more aerodynamic, like you said, reconnaissance out in different environments kind of thing.
Right.
With the classic OT Return of the Jedi look.
Eat your heart out, nerds. This is a sweet new machine that I hope ends up getting, I don't know, some kind of Lego love, maybe. That's always when Disney's knocked it out of the park and really like something, when they make the toys, baby. In episode 8, the Inquisitor, the Crow, the 11th brother, arrives in a Phi-class shuttle. It was first seen in Kenobi series. We talked about this a little bit earlier, but this is called the Scythe. That is the name of the ship. And it is one tough looking ship. The thing that I like about it, of course, is it folds up, but they have made a couple different toys about this. They've made a Lego of it. They've also made a Micro Galaxy Squadron version of this. It's very cool. It's clearly designed to have a lot of the Inquisitors in it. All in all, probably one of my favorite new bad guy ships since Kylo Ren's Silencer, in my opinion. And so now I think we got to get into this part.
Here's the thing. I reordered this discussion in the notes like half a dozen times because we can talk about the voices that we hear in terms of the actors who voice them, or we can talk about the moments. And I don't know what, it's just like so much cool stuff happened. This moment where Maul is crawling through the tunnel, the sand is blowing on him, and he's having visions. This is a version of what we've seen, him crawling through the desert, him at the bottom of the trash heap with his spider legs. He actually has a flashback to that. And man, you want to take it away and talk about whose voices we hear in what order and yada yada, because I can't. There's just good stuff here.
Okay, so first of all, if you're going to go through this like the rest of us, we knew that the flashback or something was coming. Now, before we get into this, I do want to give a shout out to one of our guests we had on fairly recently, Will of the Force, brought up this old interview that he did with Sam Witwer that said, what would it be like for Maul to go through the cave on Dagobah? Sam went, I know exactly what happens. And he goes, I haven't stopped thinking about this since I asked him that question, because he didn't want to ask too much. But shout out to Will. He's an absolute pro about this. But watching this, I was like, man, it kind of seems like he's going through his gauntlet here. It seems like this is his realization of like where his place is in the galaxy and all the things that have formed him. What is his greatest fear? This is kind of it's like he's taking Dagobah with him, but arguably is Dagobah Emperor Palpatine. So the interesting part about that is, of course, we get into this long flashback montage of the sand was the first thing I thought of. I go, this is him losing his mind. Is the sand actually there? Is this, is it physically there? It reminds me of, the him on Tatooine kind of losing his mind again. Is this the beginning of the transformation of Maul not being a savage Maul, if we call it this way, but almost like one who has to control his own chaos to fulfill his destiny of killing Emperor Palpatine? The first voice that we hear, of course, is in young form, which I've loved this visual of them being children. Savage Opress, who, if you remember, Clancy Brown, who's one of the few characters in Star Wars who's able to do live action and also voice acting. So you might know him as Ryder Azadi from Rebels and the Clone Wars, but he was also in the Ahsoka show. He was the one that comes out and goes, we're presenting Sabine Wren. Where is Sabine Wren?
Right.
You might know him from every movie in the 90s, Shawshank Redemption, probably is my favorite role of his, but he was also the Deveronian Berg in Mando Season 1, the big, tall Satan-looking guy with the two tusks. So Savage Opress is back in here. The big one, Obi-Wan Kenobi himself, not James Arnold Taylor.
Interesting.
Ewan McGregor. Hello there. What are your thoughts on this, Adam? This is a big one. I debated with Jason on this because I was like, are they just taking audio clips and they have to credit him because that's the way to do things? Or is this like, did Obi-Wan himself read new lines for this?
You know what we can do? We can just listen to the whole thing. We can just watch it because we can do whatever we want.
That is true.
We're adults.
The Emperor wants you dead. Yes, and yet I showed him loyalty. He wants you dead. Silence! Brother! Brother! Don't go. Please don't go. Savage. No. Sidious. Don't go. I must, my brother. Stop there! What have you done to my brother? Answer me, you monster! Your fetish is feeble, my young apprentice. Now, take it. Pathetic.
Hold on. Is this Tim Curry?
It doesn't sound like Ian to me.
No. There are, I think, 4 total actors who have done Palpatine over the years.
Yeah.
At the point, we're about to get to it where he kills Savage. In the Clone Wars, that was Tim Curry.
Right.
So is this him again right here?
Don't leave me here, master. Left to die. Help me. Is that you, brother? You must have your revenge.
Okay. God, this is good.
There's a lot to pack here.
There's a lot to unpack. First, I just want to say visually, this is stunning. The way they take new animations, flashbacks, and re-render them, I imagine. I don't know if they're fully re-rendering or if they're hand painting over this. I would be so interested to find out. But it all fits so perfectly. We're looking at this spot specifically where it's kind of like a medium close-up on Savage and Palpatine's stabbing backwards, killing Savage. We've got, that boxy butt chin on Palpatine that's very early Clone Wars, mid Clone Wars, but with all the textures on the different shaders and the sketchy kind of painterly sheen of this show, it all fits in perfectly. Of course, you've got all the dust and everything that really stitches it together, but
Beautiful.
the next part with the Night Sister magic, the green smoke coming out of Savage as he dies, I don't know if this is entirely recreated, re-rendered. I mean, just look at it. Look at all the texture in that smoke. This is...
It's got to be new in some sense because like this was season what season was this? Season 6 of Clone Wars?
5.
This was season 5. That was the late 2010s?
08 was the movie. Next year was, 2010 was was season 1, right? So
Let's look it up real quick. Season 5 of Clone Wars, episode 1, Revival, which is Darth Maul. September 29th, 2012.
wow.
This is absolutely redone. Has to be remade. There's no way I could see this file working this way.
I've been wondering about this so much lately because I've been going back and watching all the Darth Maul episodes
Yeah.
and watching the evolution of the animation and wondering what software these were built on, whether or not you can even pull up one of those old sessions and whether the software or the hardware is even compatible at this point. I think about like even just old hard drives I have, finding the right cables, finding, it's like a dongle tree of like 4 different things just to even get the files. So thinking about what it would take to go re-render everything.
Yes.
That's a project that is not worth Disney's time or money, and it would never happen. But for moments like this, it has to all be archived in a way where it's accessible to some degree. And you would think, having moved over to Disney, it was hopefully someone's project to upgrade those archives and integrate them in some way where they're accessible. I mean, obviously they do with the sound library. They reuse that stuff all the time.
Well, but also just the difference of 4K.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the good thing about it being, it's all 3D animation. It can be, you start with like
re-rendered and the baseline of the models and all that. I don't know. I mean, this would be a great technical question to ask. The sand, of course, is almost like, the 90s movies of shooting at night, so you can hide a lot of mistakes if you need. It's an amazing effect. I love that Palpatine, like you said, with the classic butt chin, the almost like hard clay render, it's super cool compared to when you look at them and then cut to Maul's face. There is such a difference of the smoothness and the subtlety of his cracks and his grimace of his face is really cool. You know what I mean? Like, look at the depth on his face compared to how blocky Palpatine's chin is in that little, his teeth and his face. So it'll be interesting to see who does credit Palpatine as the voice here. The part that is still throwing me off, though, is I don't hear Obi-Wan speak.
No, it's just that kind of sort of a scream.
With a green saber, though.
Let me respond to what you said about the animation one more time, about it being rebuilt. We know that they're hand painting some things. I referenced the hand-painted motion blur on one shot. That shot was about as long as this moment of Savage getting stabbed by Palpatine. This is 5-6 seconds tops. So, a few dozen frames, 24 frames a second. It's not unreasonable to think that they just hand-painted over all of this stuff. That they used it as a base, painted on top, added all the atmospherics, all like, but God, it does look, it has so much depth. It's like, I mean, look at the light coming from behind Savage. Like, you could hand paint all of this, I guess, but there's so much dimensionality. You'd almost need the original 3D files to not just make it a giant hand painting all of it.
I'm watching the Cartoon Network version of Savage and Sidious, and it is almost shot. I actually think it has to be the same animation.
Yeah, but the question is, do they use this as a 2D plate that they then paint over and create the dimensionality
right
on top of it because they can't access, within a reasonable time frame and workflow that old and really like dig in and re-render it?
Yeah, I wonder if it would be faster just to redo it rather than try to re-export and re-render and, get it up to speed. I don't know. It's a great question for one of our,
Yeah, like I really hope that the Corridor Crew guys look at this show, and I'm going to just be comment bombing them, trying to get them to do it and get somebody on because, they brought up stuff from their old projects from years ago, and they talked about how giant of a pain in the ass it was to just even find a machine that they could run the old software on. Because it's not just the software, but also the versions and the versions that are on the different operating system versions as well. So
it's awesome. It's this whole little segment was unbelievable. Let's get into, have we ever seen Palpatine actually kind of torture Maul before?
No, this is all brand new stuff.
Okay, so
as little kids, we saw them as like, I don't know, you would assume they're like 20-ish when they're little scrawny guys on Dathomir when Savage gets picked. But this stuff is all new. Yeah,
so there's a couple different books that I know that people were really referencing. There's a few scenes where people are going, oh man, Maul lockdown Master of Evil, the Darth Maul series, Shadow Hunter. These are books that kind of explore this relationship a little bit more with Maul. I would love to know a little bit about this. I probably don't have time to read them all, but it's definitely interesting. But I think the actual torture right here of Maul into
God, look at
submission,
that lightning. Ugh.
it's so good. And you see it on his face with the Kylo Ren style, cracking, stylized lightsabers. It's really cool. And I also love how you see Maul's boy face before the tattoos. It almost seems like he has less tattoos. So there's a part of me that's like, what is this? This makes me think that, when the whole Darth Talon, how does she get the tattoos? Is the tattoos, blah, blah, blah. So you're pausing at the right time to talk about Kenobi. Most notably, of course, everybody who is watching the show was like, wait a minute, is this a Qui-Gon Jinn moment? Is this?
That really sounds like Ewan's voice, that kind of
Yeah.
Oh, the scream into it is when the force field comes down after he's killed Qui-Gon and he comes
And he says no.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's right.
That's heavy. What do you think is the significance of the green saber, Adam?
Kenobi cuts Maul in half with Qui-Gon's saber.
Oh, yes.
Because his saber goes down the shaft, he's hanging there, he flips over, and force pulls Qui-Gon's saber as he flips, turns around, cuts him in half.
There we go. That's it. Okay, good. Listen, it came out in 1999. Hey, kid, it is that kind of movie.
But there is something really poetic about this. Sith and dark side users get so wrapped up in revenge. And in a way, you could see Kenobi getting revenge on Maul in that moment as being actually Qui-Gon's revenge. Like, right. Kenobi is Qui-Gon's weapon because Kenobi uses Qui-Gon's weapon. I don't know if I'm articulating this well enough.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, yeah.
So he's on the receiving end of the effects of something as terrible as what Sidious did to him.
Right.
In this moment with Kenobi. So I'm wondering how he's going to get from the end of this where he's saying, you did this to me. I won't let him do this to anyone else. He's telling the young version of himself in the reflection in his vision this about Palpatine. It's all about Palpatine. When he yelled, you did this to me, we're like one click off from yelling Kenobi in the desert. So how does he go from blaming Palpatine for everything to being obsessed with Kenobi? Is it his failure in getting revenge on Palpatine that he blames on Kenobi? Because his legs are malfunctioning. He's not at full power. He's
right.
Past his peak, past his prime. So maybe his failure to defeat Sidious is what he ultimately blames Kenobi on. And then just extrapolates it all in reverse and says, I would have been able to rise and defeat and vanquish my master as is the destiny of a Sith, if not for Kenobi.
Yeah. The other thought that I have as I'm listening to you explain that, which I love that. I love that parallel. The other parallel too, Sidious's raw power, if you want to call that's where the strength draw, that's where the Sith say that's the, most important part is raw power, right? Ultimate power. Him doing this to Maul and almost like ditching him, the mirror side of it is not ditching him, but giving him, Qui-Gon giving him the ultimate task of raising a child that Kenobi never planned, the Duel of the Fates, right? Never planned on raising. Mm-hmm. It is almost like in its own way, and that sounds very bad to say, but like the torture and learning a lesson are actually very similar in the same way of going, if you don't know what you're doing, or say you train a boy, they are what they grow beyond, or we are what they grow beyond. The Yoda parable, that is the burden of all masters, all teachers. The weight of that Kenobi experiences of Anakin turning to the dark side is the same torture that Sidious is also putting on Maul in its own red color and blue color, that they're both experiencing the weight of not understanding why their master put them through this.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because they're both experiencing what they're experiencing. This is Kenobi cutting himself off from the Force. This is his exile. They're doing the same thing. So maybe the obsession with Kenobi becomes, I'm trying to figure out why we both ended up so differently, but we are the same. Like, we are the same in so many ways.
They're different sides of the same coin.
Right? Different sides of the same lightsaber. I don't know, man. I'm into this idea. I really like this. We have been talking way too long. Patrons, congratulations. You really got your $3 worth today, baby.
Yeah. The chat is blowing up in Discord right now. Folks are having a good time. Physics Buddy Show is just coming with the screenshots and the reference, just killing it. So yeah, they're figuring all of this out in real time as we were as well. This is great stuff.
It's awesome.
This is what Patreon's all about, folks. I'm talking to you people who aren't patrons right now when I say those words.
It's a coffee cup worth to join. And we really do want you to join, because I love the proper amount of nerdiness of all different kinds of people representing. We've got Hunter in there sharing all his projects that he's working on, building stuff. We have a space dive channel. We've got people who are sharing like, hey, I'm going to the parks today. Can I pick something up for people? It is truly an awesome community to be a part of. It costs less than, what's our current rate? Less than $5 to join and jump on the Discord?
$5 is the entry level tier at Citizen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get in, talk with us. Let's figure this out. This show is, I have a feeling we're already diving in this deep, and we're not with a penultimate episode, and we are getting into the finale, and then it is going to be full Mando Grogu from there. Patreon.com/ThankTheMakerPod.
Everyone, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Patrons, we're going to talk about something in the bonus segment. We just don't know yet because we have to collect ourselves emotionally because we went so deep. We figured it'd be the two of us and it'd be just so efficient. Here we are at an hour and 20. Just like coming up for air.
The killer's on the board. This is how they're all connected. This is what's happening. We got to turn these mics on. It's happening. It's happening.
Yeah. All right, patrons, we'll see you very shortly. Everyone else, until next week, may the Force be with you. Thank the Maker is produced by Adam Russell and Jason Chiodo and edited by Jason Chiodo. If you enjoy the podcast, you can support us by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Or you can support us directly at patreon.com/thankthemakerpod, where you can get access to our Discord server, exclusive content, exclusive merch, and more. Our patrons literally make Thank the Maker possible.